If this film deserved an award, it would go for biggest party pooper of all time. Cause what kind of gift was that? Spoopy season is creeping along, and with the upcoming release of Smile 2, I decided to take a look back into Parker Finn's Smile. So let's talk about it, let's talk about the categories, and let's give it a score. Now, this film, of course, is a film that I have seen before, so I will, at the end, talk about what I gave it beforehand and what I gave it now with all the new criteria I base my reviews on. So first, let's talk about acting. Now, I'll say it, the acting is a really mixed bag, because at times I truly feel that we are witnessing something special when it comes to what the characters are doing on screen. The actors are doing their job and doing their job very incredibly well. And then at times I truly feel like they're missing the mark and the ambiance and what kind of style they're going for completely. At some points you understand that it's kind of a heightened, grounded horror film, but sometimes it feels like it's a crazy super slasher that's kind of cringy at times, but that's sometimes the vibe of slashers. And it plays this weird balancing act between the two, and it struggles to really get off of its feet. You do have Sosie Bacon as the main character in this film, and yeah, she plays the same thing as I just mentioned. It's a teeter-totter seesaw effect completely. Sometimes she's absolutely dynamite, and sometimes she's just cringy, and I kind of just look at it and go, oh. Then you have Kyle Gallner, who's kind of the second lead. You know, he's kind of this main side character, essentially. He's a cop. And again, sometimes he's really good, sometimes he's not. If I'm being completely honest, probably the performance I disliked the most was Jesse T. Usher's character, who is the fiance of our main character in this story. And he doesn't have a seesaw. He is only on one side and is complete cringe from start to finish. It's rough. So with all that being said, I'm only going to give it a half a star. Again, at times the acting is just truly special, but at most times the acting is just nails on a chalkboard. So I only give it half a star out of 1 within this category. Now let's talk about the visuals, because oh my goodness, I forgot. I haven't seen this film since it came out. This film is gorgeous. The cinematography is beautiful. The color plays amazing. Just the framing of these shots are stunning. Sometimes it can get too much, but I like it so much because it's such a style for the film. I'm just in awe because I forgot of how cool this film actually looks. There's sweeping shots, there's quick pan shots, there's upside down drone shots. You have it all. It's completely intelligent with how they use the camera to create the sense of horror and unease within its film, and yeah, brilliant work. And of course that also goes down to the set design as well, especially the hospital and the play with the colors that they use. Then some of the architecture and the places that they've chosen in terms of the houses that they use for pretty much everything. I'll give them a lot of credit for what they did there. Now, of course, there is a downside, and the downside is the ending. CGI for the ending is a bit weird. I'm not talking about how it fits within the story as a cohesive unit. It just is so off compared to everything else, and it just doesn't work. It just doesn't. Now, I tossed up a lot when it came to the score of this, because the shots were beautiful. The cinematography is absolutely just immaculate, right? It's brilliant. Chef's kiss. But that ending and the reveal of what the smile monster looks like is rough. But man, oh man, I love me an active camera, and an active camera that does it well. So with that being said, I'll be generous. Full star out of this category. Then we talk about the audio. Well, You can't have great visuals and bad audio. Unfortunately, this film, or fortunately for this film, it has great audio as well. The score is gripping and inviting, but also just sounds so dangerous and menacing. Yeah, you can clearly hear pretty much everyone. The brutal sounds of the deaths that happen within this movie, the snapping of certain things that happens within this movie, all collide for just this brutal take that they have. And man, oh man, am I amazed at how well it's done. The fact that these two aspects of film, the visual and the audio part of everything, kind of work so perfectly together within this film. I'm very surprised, and I totally forgot how well executed these parts of this whole entire movie are. And this is coming from someone who, had little expectations going into it at the first time I watched it, and then kind of was like, yeah, I kind of remember what kind of happened. And then I watched it and was like, holy crap, no wonder why it got a bunch of buzz. So with all that being said, with me enjoying the score, me enjoying the vibe that it gave and presented, I'll give it another full star within this category. Then we talk about story. The story, like I said with the acting, is a mixed bag, because at times the film feels so brilliant and smart in how they do it. Now, of course, movies like this really rely on you not knowing what's going to happen next, but also keeping the mystery of what this entity looks like. This film does a lot. And then the second act happens, and it's more interesting and gets deeper and darker into the lore. And then the third act happens like that. Snap of the fingers. It goes by so quick, and there is kind of a twist that happens, and you're kind of like, oh, okay. And then it just ends like a few minutes after that, and you're like, oh, okay. That was something. I didn't hate the ending. I loved the ending, because not only did the ending pretty much leave the door open for a potential sequel, which of course I'm going to be watching tomorrow. By the time you see this video, I've already seen it, though. You also have the ending where if it ended like that, you would understand it. You'd understand what happens next because it's done so well. But with that also being a pro, also comes it being a con, because with the fact that the ending is open-ended and they have the ability to create a sequel, also creates the fact that if they weren't being able to create a sequel, they would have to create a single great standalone movie. And that's where they try to fit as much lore without completely giving away everything, probably in their box, essentially, away in this movie. And it's stuffed in completely. And a lot of the stuffedness happens in the third act, and it can get exhausting. So then when the actual ending happens and when the credits start rolling, you kind of go, all right. And it's also something that also isn't going to jump off the page when it comes to its overall story and its arc. The hunt for the reason why everything is happening is the most interesting part of this whole entire movie, but everything else is kind of So with that being said, I can only give it a half a star within this category. Now, when it talks to the enjoyment is so hard for me with this film, because like I said, the visuals and the audio work so well together, and it's blended up, like I said, chef's kiss, but the story doesn't lend itself for the quality of cinematography and score that was given. The biggest part of the third act is pretty much all jumbled up, but it's also stuffed with so much exposition so that the audience understands what's happening without trying to let it kind of be ambiguous, which, as much as it would frustrate general audiences, I'm fine with ambiguous. And the ending was ambiguous, but the 20 minutes before it were straightforward and to the point, so you kind of were like, whatever, right? So with all that being said, with the enjoyment category, I'm just going to give it half a star. So before we say what we always say when we have the final score, the old score I gave it was 3.5, which in my books is a good film. But that's what I gave it when it released a couple years ago. But, like I say, if you're keeping track at home, Smile gets a 3.5. It's good. My mind has not been changed over time when it comes to this film. And that's coming from the point where I remember much of the film, but I don't remember everything. So, knowing that my old rating system still holds up to the new rating system, I'll give it to it. So, Smile, 3.5 out of 5.